Hi, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Hayden.
And this is...
Until the End of Crime.
All right, Hayden, can you tell me what some common comorbidities for anxiety are?
Do I have to?
Yeah, that's the question that I'm asking you.
Like comorbid mental health diagnoses?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Sure, any.
Okay, sure. A lot of times, if a client presents with generalized anxiety disorder, we can see that paired with major depressive disorder, other specified depressive disorder, PTSD, panic disorder, sometimes BPD. I'm sure there's more. It also seems to occur frequently with substance use disorder. A lot of dual diagnosis has both anxiety, depression, and then on the flip side, substance use. But I'm thinking right now purely from the work that I'm currently engaged in professionally.
Sure.
Physically, high blood pressure.
Okay.
Potentially irregular heartbeat. I think they're referred to as PVCs when hearts skip a beat under certain conditions.
Okay.
Did I give you the answer you wanted?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because you seem like maybe I didn't.
No, I actually am like, the question just feels, I had a difficult time coming up with a question for this case, and it feels like it was almost an amateur question because it didn't really lend itself to conversation. It was just strictly me asking a question and you answering things. So it just feels awkward to then transition into, it was the middle of 1994.
I think, me personally, I deal with anxiety, not
me. I'm cool as a cucumber all the time. Calm,
You're
cool,
just
and
as
collected
cool as a
forever.
cuke.
Forever and always.
Cool as a little cuke in a nuke.
Do you remember?
Headed for explosion.
Do you remember when I said this cool cucumber realized that he had gotten himself into a pickle?
I do. I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew as soon as you said cool as a cucumber.
I forgot until you said cool as a cuke.
Mm-hmm. You were really proud of that line the first time you did it.
That shit cracks me up.
And it's still cracking you up right now.
I know.
And it's still making me go, with a small eye roll. Anxiety, it really gets paired with a lot of mental illnesses. We see it manifest alongside a lot of different disorders. And so
it makes sense.
Also, anxiety can be situational, and sometimes people just kind of end up developing a bit of a dysregulated nervous system over time or due to some kind of situational issue. And so sometimes anxiety is manifesting, but it's not clinical. It's subclinical anxiety. It's stress. And I think that a lot of people carry stress with them all the time. So genuinely, I think it's comorbid with, everything. Life.
Yeah.
I think
alive.
If you're alive and breathing, you're probably harboring some level of anxiety, whether it be a clinical or a subclinical level. It's hard for me to imagine there's anyone in today's social and political climate that's not experiencing a level of anxiety. And I think, you live in the UK now. And so I think you've had the privilege to escape a level of the existential dread that we might feel over here.
It was the middle of 1994 in Waco, Texas. Kari,
this isn't the cult thing.
Clearly it's not, because I don't know the name of the guy who did it.
Oh my gosh, does the story take place in Waco?
This one?
Yeah. My dad always called it Wacko. Sorry for the interruption. I'm back. Kari Dulin and Matt Baker were both students at Baylor University, which is a private Baptist research university that recently turned down a huge grant for LGBTQ research. Anyway,
Kari, who had graduated from Waco Christian High School in 1993, was known for her deep faith, and Matt, from Kerrville, had been studying religion and ministry at Baylor, having started there in the fall semester of 1990. The two met at First Baptist Church.
Nope. Focused. When they first met at First Baptist Church,
where Kari worked as a lifeguard. And 3 months after they started dating, they married. Yeah, I think that it was some sort of like camp, like a First Baptist Church camp situation.
It must have been kind of a large community church to have a pool, yeah?
Yeah, probably. Okay. Look, this is part of there were details, and I refused to get bogged down too much in the weeds of them. Because it's
good for you.
It's a pretty long case, particularly for me. So.
All right, I'm going to shut the fuck up and let you tell the story.
Stephanie appreciates that.
Stephanie, Jesus, Stephanie, you're right. Do you think she ever listened to another episode? Do you think she's still listening?
No.
Party.
April 22nd, 1996. You got hung up on there being a pool?
Yeah.
But did you hear that 3 months after they started dating, they married?
I think it's worth sharing right now that I literally talked to a doctor this week about the potential of having ADHD.
The potential.
Just the potential of having ADHD. And so I mentioned that because no, I did not catch that part.
No, and that's fine. Maybe we just take a second to break and express that we both are unofficially diagnosed ADHD. Mm-hmm. I actually think most people are in this technological age just because of the way that information is consumed and how your brain is trained and whatever. We don't need to really get too much into it, but it is harder to concentrate when you're not the one telling the case. We mentioned it before, but so we're going to do our best. Mm-hmm. But it is, yeah.
Yeah, so bear with me. And Stephanie, if you are still here, I'm glad you're here.
Yes. So April 22nd, 1996, Kenzie was born to the couple. Near the 2-year anniversary of their marriage, Matt gave Kari a green leather-bound Bible that she cherished and recorded her thoughts in. What?
Okay, it's just not the gift I would want.
You and I don't have that in common because this is exactly what I look for in all of my gifts.
You heard it here first, men. You want Cameron's heart, leather-bound green Bible.
Okay, Bible, cherished, recorded her thoughts in. Matt was working on becoming a pastor, and Kari became a 3rd grade teacher. November 20th, 1997, Cassidy was born. She was an easier baby than Kenzie, but at her first birthday party, she started vomiting. And it continued. They couldn't keep fluids in her, and after time and testing and convincing doctors to believe that something was wrong with their daughter, Cassidy had a violent seizure which prompted an MRI that revealed she had a tumor at the base of her brain. At her age, surgery was dangerous. Anesthesia on such young lungs is dangerous, but she survived the surgery and the tumor had been removed entirely.
Oh, wow.
But she had pulmonary edema. Her lungs were hardening. She was put into a medically induced coma and a tube was inserted for breathing. The hope was that with her resting, her body would heal itself. Cassidy did eventually come home, but she still had a feeding tube and tracheotomy tube, and the family was taught how to clean and manage them. And then she had an alarm that would sound if she stopped breathing.
I wouldn't say that I'm triggered, but I'm feeling a little emotional around this kind of return home with her illness. How old was she at this time?
She was about 17 months.
The immense stress and pressure and heartbreak and terror and frustration that a family must feel with their young child being so ill and undergoing a surgery which fixes one thing but leads to the deterioration of another. And then you have to place your infant in a medically induced coma only to bring her home with a tracheotomy and a feeding tube. That just feels so impossible to navigate. And you asking me about anxiety, I mean, this is these are the kind of events that really break people, which isn't to say that they don't recover or can't recover, but the damage it does is awful. However, you might tell me that Cassidy makes a full recovery, so I'm going to be quiet and let you keep telling me the story.
In the early minutes of Monday, March 22nd, 1999, Matt went in to check on the girls and found Cassidy was not breathing. He started CPR and yelled for Kari to call 911. At the ER, just before 1 a.m., the doctors working on Cassidy told the family that there was nothing more they could do to resuscitate her. November 1999, Kari and Matt announced they were pregnant with a little girl, and on July 18th, 2000, Grace was born.
It's kind of fast, right?
Yes, but sometimes that is how couples cope with the loss of a child.
I can't criticize how anybody copes with tragic loss, and I would never want to. I think part of me as a mental health professional feels like that's a very quick movement, but there are so many other factors that could have been at play. I hope that through that, not Mary. What are their names?
You have combined their names because it's Matt and Kari.
Matt and Kari, that's right. I hope that Matt and Kari were able to still find some way to cope and grieve while also preparing themselves for a new child, or at least sometime after, because that grief doesn't work itself out just because you're busy.
Yeah, so in a part that I was planning on cutting, but might not at this point, and again, I know that Hayden has done this to me before, I am not trying to conflate the loss of a child with the loss of a pet, but we were just talking about how at the time of this recording is the day before Jenny turns 6, and Jenny was born on the day that my first dog, Nellie, passed away. So it's this weird reminder every year that, it's been 6 years since Nellie died, but also it's been 6 years of life that I've gotten to experience with my little Jin. And I know that the distraction of Jenny was not necessarily the best way for me to grieve, but that is part of the process. Jenny came home to me about 7 weeks after she was born, and I went from having this grown dog to this difficult puppy. And for me, it made it harder because it made me miss Nellie more because Jenny was so difficult and Nellie was so easy. So it feels very similar to what you were just touching on about like the grieving process and also the welcoming a new life or a new responsibility into your life while also trying to process and grieve the loss of someone else, but like on a pet scale, not on a human scale.
Right. Well, I think you're right to point that out because it's the same concept. And I've had clients who were grieving the loss of their dog for months. Or any pet.
I could feel it when it was happening. I was like, this is not the best way for me to be dealing with this grieving process. But it's not that I would necessarily change anything, I love my sweet little ginger ale.
Yeah. Please tell me more about this despairing couple. Okay. Did they kill their daughter because she had needs?
No, they didn't. Well, no. No.
Okay, good.
No.
Okay.
I guess I'm just going to put in a disclaimer here. This case is kind of long, and there are parts of the case where I kind of zipped past details and retroactively inserted them. So with that being said, November 2000, in part after Kari's insistence, Matt became a pastor at a new church because, yes, somewhere in there he became a pastor elsewhere, and they were living in the parsonage when Cassidy died. Kari did not want to continue living in the house where she had lost a baby, and especially felt uneasy about putting baby Grace into the room where they had experienced such a devastating loss.
Right.
Yeah. This new church was in Riesel, half an hour southeast of Waco. I guess I'm going to throw in another disclaimer. A lot of this information came from a book about this case, and I listened to the audiobook, and I am unsure about some of the pronunciation of the names of towns because this woman who read this book so wonderfully family was definitely not from Texas because, as I mentioned, Kari was a teacher. And at some point, her kids took what this lady called the TAKS test, which, if you were in Texas, you would call it the tax test.
Right.
So forgive me if I get pronunciation wrong, but also please correct me. Please interact with us. Please talk to us.
I bet it's Riesel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Greasy.
And who knows if I spelled it right, because it was an audiobook. So, half an hour southeast of Waco, the couple settled in the parsonage of the First Baptist Church there. But this move didn't help as much as they would have hoped. Kari was still struggling with the loss of Cassidy and found sleep difficult. Eventually, she contacted her doctor and asked them to prescribe something to her to help her sleep. She was prescribed Ambien. The medication worked too well, and Kari never refilled the prescription. She was concerned that Ambien-induced sleep would leave her unable to wake up if Kenzie or Grace woke up or needed something during the night.
You know, Ambien, I don't really hear about Ambien being prescribed anymore, and I really haven't in the time I've been working in mental health or while I was working in hospice. You know, a lot of times when people are having sleep issues now, I hear prescriptions for things like trazodone or sometimes Seroquel. And of course there are others. There are lots of different sleep medications. But I think that my mom took Ambien after my dad died, and she was just sleepwalking all over the place. Mm-hmm. She walked in a hotel.
Well,
I think found her sleepwalking. I mean, bleep that name, but...
Yeah. Kari started taking an over-the-counter sleep aid. I believe it was Unisom. On the second anniversary of Cassidy's death, Kari told her father, Jim, that she missed Cassidy and wanted to be with her, but that she loved her life with Matt, Kenzie, and Grace and wanted to be with them too. Others who had worked with Matt in the past noticed a change in his approach to leading the church members. It was noted that his warmth had diminished and that he was more so commanding them to do things rather than inviting them to participate. He finished his master's in ministry and education in May 2001 and became an ordained minister at that point. Kari began exploring her relationship with God, wanting to serve him, but also wanting anger to leave her. She asked him for guidance, wanting to be a better Christian. A lot of her conversations with God were recorded by her in the leather-bound Bible Matt had given her. The family then found their way to a church in Dallas, in part due to Kari's brashness and willingness to speak her mind. They appreciated that hiring Matt would bring along a pastor's wife who was modern and spunky. Everywhere they went, they worked to expand the youth programs at their churches. And I put school.
The uncertainty with which you're speaking is so funny because you're reading your words.
Because I put schools instead of churches. Okay. Everywhere they went, they worked to expand the youth programs at the churches, and this church's attendance had dwindled prior to their arrival. They lived in Mesquite at this time, the original home of Beyond Belief Dance Company.
That's an important detail. They ran into Justin from time to time.
Kari complained about their neighborhood, though, and Matt mentioned that he was concerned that there might be a peeping Tom in the area. So, your face.
I'm just thinking of a peeping Thomas.
So they moved closer to the church.
Did the church not have a parsonage?
I think that he was hired as a youth pastor, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't get too bogged down with all the I mean, I feel like every 3 months they were going somewhere else. It wasn't that frequent, but while they were in Dallas, it bothered Kari that Matt's parents never visited them. But it didn't seem to bother Matt.
He told her getting bothered by a lot.
Oh. What else is she bothered by?
I don't know.
The neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like where we live. I don't want to be in this church anymore.
Whoa, she never said I don't want to be in this church anymore. She just didn't want to be in the house that their daughter had died in.
Sorry. I mean, did she not want them to leave that church they were at?
I think that she was encouraging him to take a new job opportunity because he was still working to finish up his ordination. Am I making up words right now?
Sure.
Yes.
I think it's ordination. I think you're right. I don't like that word.
It does not sound right. It doesn't sound like it should be a word.
You know what? What is an ordination?
Ordination is a rite in which which a person is consecrated to a religious office, such as a priest, minister, or deacon. The specific ceremony and meaning vary among religions and denominations.
There you go.
There you go.
You had it right. You shouldn't doubt yourself.
Well, I made it up.
You're a brilliant woman.
Thanks.
You are, but your face when I said it was funny. Thanks.
Well, I don't know. It's just not that impressive to me that I would have come up with that word. That doesn't sound like it should be a word, but also back into it. Matt once told Kari that the worst day of his life was the day he realized that his parents, who fostered many children, were his biological parents.
Okay.
At this time, Kari, who was finishing up her master's degree, applied for a position at Tarleton State University that had recently opened up, and she got it. Once a week, she drove to Tarleton to teach a class, in addition to her second grade teaching position at the same school Kinsey attended kindergarten. And I think that Tarleton is far from where they were in the Dallas area. Isn't Tarleton around Waco?
Tarleton is in Stephenville, right?
Sure. Is that near Waco?
I don't know. There's people we could call and ask, but...
Like Google?
Yeah, I guess.
It's not worth it.
I was thinking of all the people I know that are... You know what? That was going to sound shitty. We're just going to keep going.
Yeah. I want to say in the book it did not mention Stephenville. It just said that it was in the Waco area.
Okay.
So anyway. So Kari's working multiple jobs, and she was busy, as anyone who's worked multiple jobs knows. And the church members began to dislike Matt, expressing their displeasure with him. This was repeatedly an issue for them, and to this point, Kari always defended Matt, complaining to others about how, essentially, he was constantly being persecuted because of the position he held. This was something that had happened since they were dating, really. Weird accusations about him were made, and people opted to distance themselves from him.
What
This
kind
time,
of accusations? I'm
we'll
sure you're
talk
going to get
about
to
them.
that.
Yeah, we will talk about them later. This time, when Kari was complaining to her mom, Linda finally told Kari that there was one common denominator in each situation, and kind of left it at that, not wanting to push too hard.
Her name is Linda.
Yeah, her mom's name.
Linda's a smart cookie.
I do think that you're going to maintain that standpoint.
Okay. Me and Linda versus the world. Got it.
I think you're going to like Linda. I think you do like Linda, but I think you're going to like her the more you get to know her. Kari, who had been homesick for Waco when they had first come to Dallas, found herself in a conundrum when Matt left the church there and accepted a position at a church in the Waco area, although it does not seem like it was the position of pastor. In the time that had passed since they moved there, Kari had made friends, started to build a community, and wasn't as keen to leave as she might have been at the start of their Dallas move. It was late 2002, and she had signed a contract to teach through May at her school. She also wasn't crazy about having Kenzie move schools in the middle of the year, so the decision was made. Matt would move into Kari's parents' spare bedroom, and Kari, Kenzie, and Grace would stay in Dallas throughout the end of the school year before joining Matt in the Waco area.
I think Linda's about to let Matt know.
In the spring of 2003, Kari asked her mom if she and Matt could be added to her cell phone plan as family lines to save money. They would pay for their own lines, but it would just be cheaper to be on the family plan. Linda agreed without hesitation. The couple eventually moved into a little red brick single-story home in Hewitt, only 20 minutes from her parents. And Kari got a position teaching third grade. At the same time, a position opened up at Tarleton to teach full-time. Linda encouraged her to take it, saying, you know that college positions don't open up that often. But Kari opted to stay at the elementary school since it would be Grace's first year at school and Kenzie's first year at a new school. She knew teaching in their school district was going to be the best way to support them during this transitional period. In late 2005, Matt found a position as a pastor at a church to take over, Crossroads Baptist, and it was the church Kari's parents attended. People who knew the couple or who had attended Matt's sermons before started attending Crossroads Baptist Church, and some noted that Matt, again, was seeming bossy rather than welcoming. Contrary to what Kari would tell people, Matt told them that they had returned to the Waco area due to Kari's homesickness and the proximity to Cassidy's grave.
Okay.
Kari did still miss Cassidy, but not long after she passed, Grace was born, and she had no choice but to pull it together for the baby. That, plus the idea that Cassidy had fought until the very end, gave her the strength and determination to do the same. That winter, a woman named Vanessa Bowles began attending Crossroads Baptist, where her father was the music minister. She was in the throes of a divorce from a man 20 years her senior. The couple had a daughter 8 months after they married.
Sorry.
And 1 month after that, in September 2005, they filed for divorce. The man denied being Lily's father, and he was right.
Yeah, because Matt's the father.
Matt's not the father.
I don't know what to do with your story. I can't make any kind of predictions. I don't know what's going on. There's not enough information to make inferences. So who's the papa? Why does it matter if it's not Matt? Obviously, Matt's the bad guy. I don't even know what the crime is yet.
I know. Is there a crime? Who knows? Just telling you a lovely story.
Just an anecdote about somebody's life, an extended anecdote about people that have lived a normal yet complicated life.
So, Vanessa and her ex-husband's divorce proceeded. It was documented that she was not his daughter, and in December 2005, the divorce was final. Vanessa and Lily lived with Vanessa's parents in Troy while she worked on her degree at Tarleton. Kari noticed Lily right away because of how much she seemed to resemble Cassidy. In the start of 2006, Vanessa's father announced to the church that he and his wife would be leaving the church. Vanessa stayed, though. At this time in history, the world decided that women needed to be thin. Fad diets and diet pills abounded, and Kari asked her doctor about a diet pill. It was prescribed, and she told her mother that she and Matt were sharing them.
Okay. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm still waiting for any of these pieces to come together in a meaningful way.
I told you. I didn't feel great about this one. Because
obviously, Cassidy's dad is Matt because, okay, well, yes, obviously to that.
Yes.
But Vanessa's Lily.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I already said this, but Matt is not Lily's father.
Do you know that for sure?
Yeah.
Does Matt have an identical twin?
No, Matt didn't meet Vanessa.
Well, no, but his identical twin could have.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. Would you like to write this fictional story?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay. Kari was feeling the pressure of her 3 jobs, as she had taken on teaching an online course as well.
So
and
what
was
the fuck
feeling
is Matt doing?
He's a pastor. No, he's at a job where he's not the pastor. I don't know. No, he is. He's the pastor.
He's the pastor at Crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Underrated film, honestly. Britney Spears did her thing. She was feeling burnout and talked to Matt about them going on a vacation for spring break. But Matt said he couldn't. He said one of the church members was expecting a death in the family and that he would need to be present to counsel them if it were to occur during that time. It would also be the 7th anniversary of Cassidy's death around that time, which was always hard for the family. In an email exchange between Kari and Matt asked if part of the reason for Kari's anxieties had to do with the upcoming anniversary. Kari, whose family had noted each year that it seemed that she had handled the anniversary better than the year prior, responded that, in a way, she was struggling with the death of Cassidy and the anniversary more than usual because she had finally truly accepted and understood that Cassidy was not coming back. She said she felt like she was sinking and getting sick. Matt asked what he could do, and she said there was nothing he could do to help. Their marriage began to experience a strain. In emails exchanged between the two, Kari expressed frustration with this, saying she did not know how to get back to where they had been, but that she was missing her partner. With the anniversary of Cassidy's death approaching, and the reopening of the wound, so to speak, Kari confided in a friend that she had contemplated suicide after Cassidy had passed. The day before the anniversary, Kari and Matt exchanged emails talking about some physical responses her body may have been having to the diet she was on. She'd told Matt that her hands were really shaky, and he wondered if it could be due to a dip in her blood sugar levels. He had made her a chocolate milkshake the night before, but she couldn't drink it, and he offered to make her a chocolate milkshake with extra chocolate syrup that night, because the one that he made her tasted funny, but she declined. She didn't want another milkshake because it tasted weird. Nothing.
I don't know. Now I'm thinking, okay, does she kidnap Lily and try to turn that into Cassidy? Like, what happens?
The day of the anniversary, the couple went to visit Cassidy's grave while their other daughters were at school. She talked to her mom that day about how she had finally found peace in accepting Cassidy's death and felt called to support other people who had also lost a child. Linda agreed that this was a wonderful idea because Kari was so good with people. The rift in the couple's marriage had become more pronounced, as exhibited by emails between the two in the final days of March, in which Matt told Kari that while Kari had expressed that she prayed the night of Cassidy's death that she would be pain-free, he had gone into her room, put his hand on her back, and prayed that she would be cancer-free and finish school. Is that a dog?
That was a Benjamin, I'm sure. So Cassidy prayed that their daughter would be pain-free.
Kari
prayed that Cassidy would be pain-free.
Yes.
But Matt prayed she would be cancer-free.
Yes, and grow up. And he had never told Kari about this before, but he was angry that Kari's prayer was the one that was answered that night. She felt like he was blaming her for their daughter's death and for everything negative between the two of them, and then for how he felt about himself. Kari called Linda and told her she was thinking that she needed to file for divorce. She didn't think that she and Matt could get past him blaming her for Cassidy's death. Linda recommended that she go to counseling rather than file for divorce. Kari started having panic attacks. She wrote in her Bible seeking peace. She asked the Lord to protect her from harm. She went to a doctor with Matt, and the physician's assistant examined her, and she asked for Xanax, which her mother had told her worked well for her. The doctor then came in and asked her if she thought the anxiety she was experiencing could have been hormonal. She did not, and so she was prescribed Celexa instead.
Was she still taking her diet pills?
I believe so.
Because diet pills are, especially then, were stimulants. And stimulants can contribute to anxiety. I mean, just by biological nature, they put your body into a more prepared state for fight or flight. So it's, what would be the benefit of taking Celexa or Xanax if that medication wasn't at least reduced? Interesting. I wonder if the doctor knew that she was taking diet medication.
Well, and she wasn't taking, according to what she told her mom, she wasn't taking as much as was prescribed because she and Matt were sharing the diet medication.
And then medication noncompliance can have negative effects.
Right. So Celexa is an antidepressant, and Kari pushed back, saying she had anxiety, not depression. The doctor told her that sometimes depression can rear its head as anxiety, so she took the prescription. She was furious with the doctor, feeling unheard. In the car, she tore up the prescription, and when the couple stopped at a stop sign, she wanted to crack the door to let some air into the car. I think she was feeling another panic attack come on. Matt grabbed her, thinking she was going to do something extreme, like jump from the vehicle, which made her laugh. Later that same day, Kari called her friend crying, saying she felt that Matt was having an affair. She also found crushed pills in his briefcase and confronted him about them. He assured her that, with his position working with troubled youth now, that it's not exactly clear what he was saying. I think he told her that they would give him the pills, or sometimes they would try to hide them places when they would be searched, or when they thought they were going to be searched, and so they must have hid them in his work bag. She didn't understand why they would be crushed and didn't fully believe his explanation. That night, she went searching for the pills again, and Matt found her and asked her what she was doing. She told him she was looking for the pills. Something about them made her uneasy. And when she went back to the therapist that she had seen after Cassidy's death, as her mom had suggested, she told her about them and that she thought Matt was having an affair and was planning to kill her.
Oh my.
Then she laughed and said it was ridiculous, that she knew better than that, and that he would never resort to such measures.
Okay, we're getting dangerously into delusional thinking. We are within a stone's throw of potential psychosis.
At the end of their session, Kari was told that if she was still having obsessive thoughts about Matt by Friday, that they could discuss them then in a follow-up phone call. She did continue to have doubts about Matt. She told a friend that she had considered leaving him and calling the friend to come get her and the girls. She also told the friend the same thing about thinking Matt was going to kill her, and again dismissed it as ridiculous. 2 days after this conversation was the Friday that she was supposed to talk to the therapist on the phone. She had a job interview to teach junior high English. She had just passed the English exam to teach at a higher level, and she was very excited. She felt called to that age group because they're so difficult. More power to her. But...
They may be a part of it, but it's not joyful.
It has its moments, right? Because kids are kids.
Sure.
But
I would never. I hated teaching 7th grade. It's hard to find joy in that task for me.
Yeah. It went really well, and she was really excited about this prospective change in her career. But later that afternoon, her mood had swung in the opposite direction. Matt and Kari took the girls to swim practice, and several people noted that Kari's eyes were red and that she looked distraught. Cut to a few minutes after midnight that night, a 911 call was placed, and Matt told the dispatcher that he believed his wife had just committed suicide.
Okay.
He described Kari as having blue lips and mentioned a suicide note that said, what basically amounts to, I'm sorry. I do read the note later. Told them there was no pulse and that she wasn't breathing. They coached him over the phone to do CPR. It dawned on him that the girls were asleep and that he would likely need to leave with Kari when emergency responders arrived, so he gave the dispatcher the phone number to call Kari's parents. They showed up as quickly as they could after driving the 20 minutes to get from their house to their daughter's. As EMTs were working on Kari, officers were asking Matt about the events leading up to his discovery of her. He told them that she had asked him to go rent a movie, the same movie that they had watched on their first date. And so he had left and showed back up 45-ish minutes later, finding the bedroom door locked, and Kari wasn't opening it. He got a screwdriver and got the door open, and when he found her, nude and lifeless, as well as the note, he then called 911. I think that he put clothes on her before they got there, or I don't know, like a shirt and underwear.
I'm waiting for the crime, and I did not expect things to make this turn based on what you had shared, because I was starting to ponder what other kind of diagnoses might be present. Mm-hmm. I need more information.
Great. Sergeant Chad Casting heard the call come in about an unresponsive female, and when he arrived on the scene, he overheard Matt tell another first responder about the note. The typed note read, Matt, I am so sorry. I am so tired. I just want to sleep for a while. Please forgive me. Tell Kenzie and Grace that I love them very much. Tell my mom and dad that I love them, too. I love you, Matt. I'm so sorry for the past few weeks. I want to give Cassidy a hug. I need to feel her again. Please continue to be the great dad to our little girls. Love them every day for me. I'm sorry. I love you, Kari. Sergeant Casting wondered how long Kari had been unresponsive, and when he saw her body, he noticed lividity on her hands and back. They were beginning.
Remind me what lividity is?
Yes. Lividity is the pooling of blood after the heart stops pumping. Okay. That indicates that a body has been in that position for a period of time. So like post-mortem, if somebody kills somebody and then they move the body a few hours later, the lividity shows what position the body was in before it was moved. That's sometimes how they can determine that someone didn't die of natural causes or die where their body was found.
Right.
They were beginning to realize that this was a futile effort because her lips and fingertips were already blue, and the presence of lividity indicated that she had probably been dead for some time. The coroner ultimately ruled Kari's death as suicide, and there was not any follow-up investigation. It was certainly a tough pill to swallow for those who had known and loved Kari, that she would take her own life. So tough, in fact, that some members of her family refused to believe that she had done this to herself.
And Linda's right for not believing it.
Linda had 3 sisters and 1 niece, and they were all vehemently opposed to the idea that Kari had killed herself. They refused to believe it and seemed to be trying to convince Linda to not believe that Kari took her own life. Linda was kind of thrown off by their grieving process. She knew that denial, bargaining, and anger served their roles in this process, but she didn't understand how they were unable to accept the devastating fact that Kari's death had been ruled a suicide by the officials. And remember, Linda and her husband Jim, they came to the scene that night. They were there when Kari's body was taken out of the home. What her sisters were trying to convince her was that this wasn't Kari's choice, but the only logical conclusion they could come to was that it was someone else's, and they believed it was Matt's. Matt had a history of not respecting boundaries with women, not taking no for an answer, being forcible with them, asking 14-year-olds for sex. And older women, because he knew what it was like to be with a young woman, but now he wanted to know what it was like to be with an older woman. And he asked if someone would be willing to sleep with a married man. And
Who did he ask that to? Well,
we'll get into it. And he was just a creep, and sounds to me like he was also a sex addict.
See, now a little bit of this could have happened earlier in the episode.
I know, but it was... I know.
Because this whole time I've had to be like, what's going on with Kari?
Sure. Although, I guess I was trying to drop some nuggets in there about Matt's not being likable.
Right.
Moving jobs a lot, mostly
Right.
because he...
Why do teachers and pastors have to move when they're men? Because they're inappropriate. I mean, is that always the case? No.
No, right.
But with men?
Yeah, well... So, in the meantime, Matt made some changes to his appearance, spiking and gelling his hair, and...
After his wife died or before that?
I think after. And he updated the message on Kari's phone to his own, much to the dismay of those like Linda, who had been calling the phone to hear Kari's voice.
Oh, Matt.
It wasn't long before Matt seemingly started dating a woman with a young, blonde daughter. At least that was people's perception when they saw him and Vanessa together at the grocery store. Later that month, Kenzie turned 10, and Matt permitted her to have a slumber party. He asked a couple who Kari had met through work to help him with it, and they did, but they felt uncomfortable when Vanessa was also there, and then when Matt and Vanessa disappeared into the bedroom for a time, and then more so when they were cozied up on the couch while a movie the girls attending the party were watching was on, with Vanessa's head resting in Matt's lap.
Oh, my.
Just a reminder, Kari died April 8th, and Kenzie's birthday was April 22nd.
Well, that's not suspicious.
Linda was still refusing to even consider that the father of her granddaughters, her son-in-law, would have harmed her daughter, but her family still insisted that Kari would not have left Kenzie and Grace of her own volition.
When is Linda gonna wake up?
But Linda had had some misgivings of her own, despite her not wanting to believe them. She had her husband go to the police and look over the note left when Kari died, wanting him to read it and determine if he thought that Kari had been the one who had written it. He did, and said that he did think that Kari probably had written the note. When the therapist that Kari had spoken with talked to Linda, she mentioned the crushed pills that Kari had found in Matt's work bag. Linda confronted him about this, and he told her the same thing that he had told Kari. It was from the troubled youth he worked with. She accepted this answer because it made sense. Slowly but surely, though, Matt stopped allowing his daughters to interact as much with Kari's parents as they had been, claiming that Linda was not moving on and was trying to stifle the girls from moving on. He was also openly dating Vanessa and told Kenzie that Linda did not like Vanessa. Kenzie and Grace did, and so Kenzie discussed this with Linda and assured her that they liked Vanessa and missed their mom. Both could be true. On Mother's Day, the month after Lisa lost her daughter, Matt permitted to see and speak with their maternal grandparents. Matt permitted the girls to see and speak with their maternal grandparents. Is it helpful when I read all of the words that I put on here, or should I continue to skip around?
Whatever you're doing is perfect.
Great, thanks.
So whatever combination you're doing, it's hitting the mark.
Wonderful. But that was the last time he willingly did so, including
That's crazy.
Having them stay with someone while he preached so they wouldn't see them at church on Sundays.
At the church they were members at that he started working at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He no longer brought his daughters to church that he worked at, that he preached at, because they would see their grandparents if he did.
That's Loco Coco. It is. Sorry, it's Loco Coco.
Okay. So still conflicted over her sisters and nieces' insistence that Matt murdered Kari, and now mad that he was withholding her granddaughters, Linda checked the mail one day and found her AT&T bill. She remembered that she had put Matt and Kari on her family plan and told one of her sisters that she was thinking of canceling his line. Instead, her sister suggested she keep the line and review the records. She called AT&T and requested all of the call records for the last 3 months. They told her they would send them and informed her that she could access them online as well, which ended up being a good thing because when they sent them, they somehow ended up not going to her address and went to his address, I guess because those numbers were registered to a different address. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he received the records. She didn't, but she logged on and looked at the records online. She looked at the days after Kari's death and noticed a frequent call to a number in Troy. She looked up the number and found that it belonged to the Bowles family. Then, in the weeks after, she saw something that confused her. Matt seemed to be calling Kari hundreds of times for thousands of minutes. It dawned on her that Matt had given the phone to someone else, likely Vanessa. And if that were true, he and Vanessa had begun a relationship months before Kari died. She called her sister. They decided to research all numbers phoned by him. And then Linda began to research Unisom, which Kari had been taking to sleep since Cassidy's passing. She discovered in this research that Unisom would have to be consumed in a very, very large quantity to be lethal. And the death would be slow, not within a matter of 45 minutes. Things were adding up against Matt. She realized then that she was trying to convince herself to this point that Kari had killed herself because she hadn't wanted to believe Matt capable of killing her daughter, but she couldn't ignore the evidence. She discussed it with Jim, and they agreed. There needed to be a proper investigation into their daughter's death. But Hewitt PD wasn't interested in reopening the case that had been settled once the suicide ruling was in place. Linda and her sisters started emailing about all of the evidence they had and discussing how to best approach this with the police to get the investigation into Matt going. They dubbed themselves Charlie's Angels, with Linda being Charlie and her sisters being the Angels, signing off on the emails as such.
That's cute, but kind of odd.
Yeah, well, Linda would sign off as Charlie. I think I'm right there with you. I feel the exact same way about it. Like, it's kind of like quirky and cute, but it's really weird when you put it into the perspective and the context of what is going on that led them to being Charlie's Angels, quote unquote.
There's something really endearing about it.
Yeah.
But it also feels oddly confident and self-assured for a group of people who are researching the probable murder of their loved one.
Yeah.
And so there's almost kind of this discordance, this disconnect between those two thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm researching my daughter's murder and I'm signing off as Charlie. Now, by the same token, I do think there is something incentivizing and motivating about thinking of yourself as a form of yourself that's an expert at what you're doing. So if anything ever happens to you and I start researching and trying to prove that you were murdered, knock on wood, I need to be able to think of myself as being an expert to try to find expert answers. I don't know who I'm going to be in contact with. I guess it'll be Candy, Taylor, Marilyn. I don't know. I don't want to be Charlie. That feels like a lot of responsibility.
I would not expect you to be Charlie. You're going to talk about it on the podcast. You might bring those people on to discuss things, right?
Uh-huh.
The unedited footage is going to be great.
Fully raw. And then I'll be like, someone tell me what to do. I'll search something. I'll look it up, but I'm not.
Maybe somebody who is sympathetic to the cause will be like, I'll edit it for you.
Well, I wasn't even talking about for the podcast. I was just talking about finding your murder.
Gotcha.
Your murderer.
I'm glad that you're going to be on the case.
If it ever gets solved, it'll be a fucking miracle because I can't put two related thoughts together at once.
If it doesn't get solved, I will be pissed because I'm going to do whatever I can to leave evidence that is going to lead you to the person or persons. Anyway, okay, now that we're done talking about me being murdered. They learned at some point that Matt and Vanessa had gone shopping together for an engagement ring and were now looking at properties. One of the numbers that they called was a realtor.
Oh my God.
They were looking at properties, I think, in that area, but also in Troy. One of Linda's sisters went to the video store to determine whether or not Matt's story was true, but they said the police would need to come get the tape if it needed to be reviewed. In July 2006, after uncovering evidence that led the family to believe Matt killed Kari, the Dulins filed a wrongful death suit against Matt. With questions about why an autopsy had not been ordered on Kari's body when she had been young and healthy, and then now the wrongful death suit, it was ordered by the judge that the case be reopened to look into Matt.
We love a judge who does the right thing.
Yeah. It was the family's understanding that young, healthy people who had typed suicide notes were autopsied by default. The family began working on the process of trying to get Kari's body exhumed and autopsied, which required a ruling from the same judge that had made the original call to not have an autopsy performed. The police became aware of the final session that Kari had with the therapist, and they knew that Joanne Bristol would be necessary for this case if it went to trial. Mm-hmm. An investigation into Matt was opened and Vanessa was interviewed, and she denied a relationship with Matt, denied knowing about Kari's death, and just denied.
Now that's just poor form. At least be better at lying.
As they continued to interview her in the months following their initial interview, the story changed. She always had her attorney present with her during conversations with the police, which we do advocate for. I advocate for. I'm not going to speak for you, but...
Yeah, 100%.
And she was subpoenaed for the grand jury. She agreed to give them more information. And actually, in July 2006, Vanessa ended her relationship with Matt for good and had no further contact with him.
Good for Vanessa.
Hold that thought. During the grand jury testimony, Vanessa revealed that Matt had started flirting around late November, early December, and it became more aggressive. He had overheard her talking with a friend about dating and said that she wasn't sure about doing that with her divorce being so fresh. He mentioned to her that he had cheated on Kari before, and that his wife was none the wiser to it. He told Vanessa that he did not have any sexually transmitted infections, and had a vasectomy, so couldn't get her pregnant.
What a fucking skis ball.
Yeah. Despite her original denials, Vanessa confirmed that she and Matt had engaged in an intimate relationship once prior to Kari's death, in Matt and Kari's bed, in February 2006.
Well, now she really is a home-wrecking whore.
He also told her that if they fell in love, he would find a way to get out of his marriage. In March, he started floating the idea of killing Kari by Vanessa.
Okay.
There was talk about cutting her brakes, staging a drive-by shooting, which I imagine in Hewitt that would have been, just run-of-the-mill. Or hanging her and making it appear that she had killed herself by leaving a suicide note. Vanessa asked how he would pull off crafting a convincing note, and he said that he would just type it, because Kari typed everything anyway. That, paired with the anniversary of Cassidy's death being around that time, would all work together to convince everyone that Kari took her own life.
What a sick fuck to think about it in terms of his dead daughter.
Do you remember? No. Do you remember the milkshake that he made her the night before the anniversary of their daughter's death?
What, it had cyanide or what?
It had something in it, because that was the first time Matt attempted to kill Kari. She wouldn't drink it, like I said, because it tasted funny. And the following day, he emailed her saying he could make another milkshake with extra chocolate to ensure it tasted delicious.
Mm-mm. Cyanide can taste like bitter almond to what the 25% of people who can taste cyanide. And so I don't do we know what poison he tried to use?
Well, my guess is that he emptied Ambien.
Oh, that would make sense.
Or whatever that crushed up stuff was.
Yeah. I wonder what he could have used.
I don't think that he was trying to poison her to death. So April 7th was a date night for the couple. That was the date that she had that junior high English position interview. According to Vanessa, that was going to be a date night for them. Mm-hmm. But Vanessa knew the morning of April 7th that Matt was going to try again to kill Kari that evening. When she woke up on Saturday the 8th, her mother informed her of Kari's passing. When the Bulls went to the Baker home later that day to express their condolences, Matt walked them out of the house and winked at Vanessa. When they were able to be alone later, he told her basically how he had killed Kari.
Yeah.
He had given her some aphrodisiac-like stimulant capsules that he had emptied and put Ambien in after unsuccessfully attempting to obtain Rohypnol. He had taken some of the stimulants himself, but not the ones with the Ambien. Then they engaged in some foreplay as she began to feel drowsy. He handcuffed her to the bed as part of it, and they continued the foreplay until Kari couldn't fight off the effects of the Ambien, falling asleep. At that point, he placed a pillow over her face. Between being handcuffed and drugged, she was unable to fight back effectively, and when she stopped moving, he removed the pillow. She was still breathing and opened her eyes, so he returned the pillow and applied pressure over her mouth and nose until she died. He typed the letter, and then he locked the bedroom door, went to the movie rental store to establish his alibi, returned home, and called 911.
What a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Not that he necessarily knew this, but he was saying that he could get out of his marriage if he fell in love with Vanessa. But at the same time, I mean, that day or the day before, she was contemplating filing for divorce.
Right.
Like, he basically said, I blame you for Cassidy's death. And she was like, well, there's really no coming back from this.
Right.
So,
and I'm sure her mother thought about that conversation over and over again.
So she actually did, because she was in some capacity a mental health professional. So I left a lot of details out of this because it was a whole book and whatever. But Jim was Kari's adopted father because while Linda was pregnant with Kari, her biological father was killed, I think, in a motorcycle accident. And so Linda was kicking herself a lot because when she suggested to Kari that she get counseling rather than file for divorce, she knew that that was not an ethical practice because Kari was her family and she should not have advised her in any capacity as a professional on what to do in that situation with the feelings that she was having. So she did think about that a lot. She kicked herself a lot, but not probably for the reason that you were thinking that she would. It's just
I thought she would feel responsible for her death in terms of, instead of going and endorsing divorce, she said go see a counselor.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying too. But my mind went to a place of,
right,
maybe my daughter would still be alive if I hadn't decided to. Which
I think is what I was saying, but I wanted to give you the context that there was an additional layer to that feeling that she was having.
That makes sense. One of the perils of, just of being a person, right? A person that people feel like they can talk to. You always run the risk of saying something that ultimately leaves them what we would believe to be worse off than they were beforehand. But when you work in the mental health profession or some kind of profession where people look to you for guidance, advice, comfort, direction, I think that the amount of pressure does not always serve as an adequate enough counterbalance to the desire to help. And so we want to be there for people and we want to meet them where we are. We want to leave them feeling better than when they arrive. Right. But the truth is that's A, not always ethical, but B, it's not always the journey that a person needs to go on.
So just simply as somebody with a master's in psychology, I do have people sometimes reach out to me and kind of ask for my expertise. And I'm like, one, I'm not an expert. Like, the only expertise that I can bring to this situation or this question or this whatever is probably more so related to like looking at it from probably a true crime perspective, if I'm being honest.
Right.
Because I'm not an expert at true crime, but like spent more hours with that than I have with anything else probably. True crime and schnauzers. So yeah, it can be very difficult to like navigate that line of I don't want to just like seem like I'm shoving somebody off or dismissing them, because I do still care about them. We are still friends or family or whatever the case may be, but I'm not always the right person. I guess sometimes it's uncomfortable, or if you do kind of indulge them in something, it's like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing, but like I was doing it because you were asking. I don't know. It's...
I always, when I'm in a situation similar to that, I always preface it with, so I'm here as your friend, your loved one, your family member. I'm not here as a professional.
Right.
And then I'll say, I can talk to you like a professional if you would like, but the truth is you're going to be deeply dissatisfied with what I provide to you, because my work is meant to be guided by self-determination. That's the number one ethic for a social worker. And so anytime I do anything, my job is to help clients understand what it is they truly desire and where they want to be, and help facilitate that. Now, whether that be through therapeutic modalities or other kind of support services, whatever. But so often, friends, family, people who just meet and want to casually discuss something related to mental health or psychological principles, I typically, I indicate you're not going to be satisfied because that's not what I do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. My job is not to be directive in that way. My job is to help you explore and find peace, comfort and direction. I'm not going to tell you that you should break up with somebody. I'm not going to tell you that someone is awful. I'm not going to tell you that your mom's a narcissist.
I'm not trained to just sit here and take this one little snippet of your life that you want guidance on and just analyze the hell out of it. That I do personally, probably more for my own entertainment or enjoyment than anything that I can do from an actual, like, trained or studied background. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Linda felt like she had... I think she had that feeling almost immediately after having that conversation with Kari. Like, she knew when she gave her that advice that she should not have given her that advice.
Yeah, that she should have acted more as a mother than a mental health professional.
And I think that's kind of what we're saying, is that even in those moments where it feels like you're towing a line, I will walk away from those situations or conversations and wonder if I was maybe speaking in a way that was ethical, or that I gave the advice that I should have done, or if I navigated that situation appropriately. And it's just never a good feeling when you walk away with that, but
it's not.
Yeah.
And there are reasons, very good reasons why ethics exist and tell us that we should avoid dual relationships with clients. Mm-hmm. We have to come from a place of unconditional positive regard. We have to come from a place of curiosity. We have to come from a place of lower personal stakes. And so all of these things, all of these factors are meant to keep other people safe. Mm-hmm. It's meant to keep us safe, but it's meant to keep clients and loved ones safe. And so I think, I try to be very ethical in all of the practices that I do. So much so that it sometimes makes me leave places that may not hold the same strong beliefs I do.
Yeah.
The same commitment. That's not to say I'm perfect or that I get everything right, but I don't know. That's tough. And I've had a lot of that going on in my personal life. And I think it caused a lot of anxiety for me personally. Anyways, all of that said, where did we fucking leave off?
So Matt was arrested. I hope some of that ends
up on the cutting room floor. That was so much talking.
Yeah. So Matt was arrested and indicted on murder charges. At the trial, all of the evidence that the women and subsequent investigators were able to find was presented to the jury, and the results of the autopsy that was ultimately conducted after Kari's body had been exhumed.
Well, you hate yourself today.
I really do. Between all of the evidence that was presented to the jury, including the results of the autopsy that was ultimately conducted on Kari's body, the jury deliberated for 7.5 hours. The jury deliberation was very thorough, and when they returned, the verdict they had agreed on was Matt Baker was guilty of the first-degree murder of his wife and the mother of his children.
That's good because he was.
Yeah. There was an issue with, Vanessa's credibility, because when she spoke about basically knowing from the get-go that Matt was planning on killing Kari and she didn't intervene, she didn't stop seeing him. Instead, she talked about marrying him, buying property together. That's when they went back and they tried to find anything to corroborate her story, which is when they found the email right around the anniversary of Cassidy's death that talked about the milkshake, and somebody else remembered her mentioning that he had made her a milkshake and that it tasted like lead, and so she didn't want to drink it, and she wouldn't drink it. But then remember that following day, she was saying that she was really shaky and she didn't know what was going on, and he asked about blood sugar and then offered to make her another milkshake. So during the sentencing phase of the trial, both sides called character witnesses. The prosecution called women who had been, in essence, molested by Matt over the years, starting with his early adulthood, including a woman who was warned about him prior to arriving at the hospital when Cassidy was ill, and who he attempted to corner and hit on literally while his sick child lay in a hospital bed nearby. Somebody else, the woman who had warned her about him before, I think it was one of Kari's aunts, and she said, or maybe it was one of her friends, but she said, I kind of expected him to do that. That's why I gave you the heads up, basically. So they had discovered that Matt would consistently spend time at his church youth center job watching pornography, which again goes to me thinking that he was addicted to sex and or pornography.
Oh my God. Not at the church center.
The youth, yeah. Not just church, but like the youth church center that he worked at. There was also a whole side... there was a lot of information that I left out, but when he took that position, the woman that worked in the office next to him or something, or served as his secretary possibly, I think she saw right through him, and so he did not like her, and he made her life miserable to the point that she held out as long as she could, but ultimately ended up leaving that job. The defense team called a number of witnesses who seemed to show a cult-like support for Matt, exclaiming that he was a godly man, and that murdering the mother of your children doesn't mean you cannot still be a good father. And I bet I could make some decent money betting on whose name was printed on their ballots in November.
Man, I don't know. Okay, so he had character witnesses who actually came and said he may have killed his wife. He may be a murderer.
The mother of your daughters doesn't make you a bad dad. You can still be a good dad, even if you murdered their other parent.
That don't make no kind of sense. That don't make no kind of sense. I don't know who said that. I don't know who thought that. I don't know who came up with that. I don't know. But I do know that is wild. That might be one of the ultimate signs that you're not meant to be a parent.
I do think that murdering a loving, attentive, present,
dedicated
parent, yes, is you not being a good parent.
Yeah, again, some would argue that might be the very definition.
It might be.
Yeah.
I thought that cult-like shit was weird.
It raises questions about what kind of behaviors those people were engaging in. Were they male character witnesses?
I think they were female. I think they were women.
Okay, and so what had he done to them? What kind of duress were they under? What kind of need did he fulfill for them that might have led them to act and say and do and behave those ways?
I think it was people who were members of the church. I did not listen to every single minute of this audiobook, and what I did listen to was on 1.5 speed. But I think that they were women, and I want to say that it sounded to me like they were older women. Womana. And so anyway, I think that they just, I don't know, maybe Tammy Wynette, stand by your man. Stand by your minister.
That's the first person I'm going to be suspicious of. If someone tells me something is off, sorry, I'm not trusting the minister.
Another thing we just don't have in common.
I know, you would do anything for those Catholic priests.
Whoa. Okay. We don't have time to unpack that. The jury returned a sentence of 65 years.
Okay.
I don't know if he's eligible for parole. I don't know. 65 years. Matt had taken precautionary measures during the trial that granted his parents custody of Kenzie and Grace. Linda and Jim had expected this, but Linda had also told Matt during her victim impact statement that she was going to dedicate her life to the girls who he had taught to hate, who he had made to believe their mother chose to abandon them. It didn't seem fair that the girls would be growing up in the same environment that had crafted Matt. Right. The parents, who he had expressed disdain for after learning that he was not one of their foster children, but their biological child. Kenzie and Grace were mad at Linda and Jim. They blamed them for their dad going away. They had once-a-month visitation, and they could tell during those visits that the girls were being fed a lot of information and hope that Matt was innocent and that his appeal would be granted and he would be coming home soon. They also could tell that there was influence over the girls that left them vilifying their maternal grandparents. As their weekend visits would progress, the girls would start to loosen up, but initially there was always a tension when they would pick them up. Eventually, they stopped calling them Granny and Pawpaw and referred to them only by their first names. After Linda attempted to bargain with Matt's mom, Barbara, to avoid putting the girls through a custody battle, her pleas fell on deaf ears, and the two sets of grandparents filed motions for custody. The courts assessed the homes of the Bakers and the Dulins, assigned a guardian ad litem to the girls, and began evaluations on all parties involved, working to determine the best arrangement for where the girls should live. This involved tracking down former foster children of the Bakers, since they proved to be the most difficult to assess. boys. Matt's mom was described by them as demanding and demeaning. Oscar, his father, who never once came to his son's murder trial, had left many young girls with horror stories to share. At the custody trial, the Bakers were described as manipulative and emotionally abusive, having been the driving force behind the alienation of loving grandparents and their granddaughters. A social worker and a home study both found that the girls should live with the Dulins, not the Bakers. 6 former foster children testified to emotional and sexual abuse in the Baker home. Also, just a fucking aside, but Matt Baker had written a letter that encouraged Kenzie, who was now 15, to write to and speak on the phone with one of his new buddies, an inmate who had been convicted of murder. So, what the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely what the fuck.
The Guardian ad litem stated that the girls should stay with the Bakers because they didn't want to live with the Dulins. Ultimately, it was determined that it would be in Kinsey and Grace's best interests to leave Kerrville and return back to Waco, living with the Dulins. They put them into counseling and fostered a nurturing environment. The girls are in their 20s now and miss their mom. They recognize that their father murdered her and stole so much from them, not just their mother, but their childhood.
Yeah.
But they vow to not allow him to steal more from them. And that's my case.
How sick.
For a relationship that lasted 8 months, at most 8 months.
Yeah. So is Matt still in prison now?
I mean, he ought to be. He was incarcerated in, 2006? And then was given 65 years.
And then, do we know what happened to both sets of grandparents? Are they all still alive? Did the girls ever visit with their other grandparents?
Jim passed in 2014, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know about the Bakers. It does seem that Linda is still alive.
How horrendous.
Yeah. There were episodes that covered this case and I couldn't access any of them. I don't know if it's because I'm in the UK or if it's that they're not available. But I want to say that she participated in episodes that I attempted to watch.
I was confused about where the case was going, but I liked it. The content matter was kind of upsetting. And I say kind of upsetting because we've already talked about the subject matter that we cover and what it does to your ability to understand what's upsetting and what's not upsetting. I think this notion that Matt didn't just do the wrong thing once. He didn't do the wrong thing twice. He did the wrong thing every chance he got.
He still maintains that he didn't do it.
Yeah, and we still know that's a lie.
Yeah.
So He
told his daughters that, and I guess Vanessa, maybe he told Vanessa this, that basically that God condoned adultery. God is all forgiving and had already forgiven him for the adultery and the murder and whatever. And so he felt like because he decided that God forgave him, that like he was good. Everything was fine. Hunky dory.
What a sick fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the reason that I struggled with this case is there were so many details that I didn't know if I was even able to do it justice. Because there's still a lot that I left out, right? Mm-hmm. Like some of the specific women's stories of attacks by Matt Baker. There were, I don't know, there was a lot that I ended up leaving out, and we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes right now, which I know a lot is going to be cut, but
I think you're going to get it down to an hour. You know, I don't know if it sounds like he was a repeat offender, repeat perpetrator in his own right. I don't think we have to be able to say exactly what those crimes were in order to understand just how devious and awful a man this is.
Obviously, this made a lot of headlines, right? Mm-hmm. Esteemed Waco Baptist minister, preacher, pastor found guilty of, or like murdered his wife, had an affair. Like there was a lot of the sensational parts to it, which is why I think you noted that you didn't really know where this was going. It's because when I started writing this, when I started researching it, it was all of those like superficial details. They were more focused on the sensational stuff. And that was when I realized that I needed to access the book and try to get some more of the details, because even just finding what year they met in, they married 3 months after they met, and I couldn't find the exact year that they met in.
Right.
So I had to get the book because everything that I found was mostly just about like I don't know, clickbaity stuff.
Right.
I didn't
all about
care
generating
for it.
revenue versus adequately sharing stories.
Well, and this guy in particular is a very dangerous person because he holds a position of power or authority, or the type of position where people view him in a certain light, and he doesn't have to do that much to maintain that, because as you see, people still are like, oh, well, he's godly. Who cares if he murdered somebody? He's a man of God.
Right.
Come again? And
yeah, that supposed respectability.
But then also the people liking him at first, but then not liking him over a period of time. Him cornering women, asking women for sex, regardless of
Sounds like
age.
he was perpetuating the behaviors of his father.
Okay, so one of the women who testified as a character witness who had been a foster child in the Baker home said that she was there from the ages of 7 to 9, and that Matt's father, Oscar Baker, started by when he would bathe her, he would kind of touch her, and then when he would put her to bed, and there would be touching, that he was grooming her basically to become more, I guess, comfortable with it. And then around the time that eventually he started coaching her into performing oral sex on him, and by the time she was 8 was when he started raping her vaginally.
Oh my God.
And then he started sharing her with other men, including a Baptist pastor. So, yeah, repeating some of the way that his father viewed and treated women, but also, nobody said this explicitly. This is completely my opinion, but it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibilities to think that he would also encourage his son to blur the lines with some of the foster girls that were in their home.
Right.
That's just me.
Tough one, Cameron.
Yeah, the book is very thorough. If you want more details, by all means, it's called Deadly Little Secrets, and it is by a woman named Kathryn Casey, which happens to be my late great aunt's name as well.
Okay.
So, not the Waco cult.
Okay. That's all we've got for this episode. Thank you for listening.
Until the next crime.
If you enjoyed listening and want to hear more, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a review.
A complete list of all sources can be found in the episode description. And because this episode did talk a lot about potential self-harm, if you find yourself struggling mentally or feeling like you want to harm yourself, you can always call 988 in the US and Canada, right?
Yeah, you can call or text for mental health crisis support to 988. All you have to do is text TALK, TALK, to 988, and that should generate a response. And with that being said, recommend us to a friend. And if you are able and willing to help us produce this podcast, sign up for our Patreon.
The link to joining our supportive bestie tier for only $2 a month is listed in the show notes. Also, make sure you're following us at End of Crime Pod on Instagram.
And if you can't tell, this has been one hell of an episode for us to get through. Our email address is endofcrimepod@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out with questions or episode suggestions.